Hello! Pizza Packs here, and we're back with the first of two commander decks from Edge of Eternities. This is the Black, Red, Green World Shaper deck. Sacrifice lands, grow back stronger. It's a very cool theme. Let's take a look at it. Make earth-shaking plays. And 10-2. We have our Collector Booster Sample Pack. We will be opening those in their own video. So we'll have 8 this time around. Let's see. So we have a themed tuck box. So about the same quality as we've had for the last few sets. Not the best, but it'll hold your deck in sleeves. For a little while, at least. So. Then we have our pamphlet/insert. This covers our two face commanders, which apparently one is a StarCraft. That's a new thing. We have playing the deck, overview of commander rules, and then the color pie. Okay, so we got our deck, insert with our tokens. Even fewer tokens than last time, or counters rather. Even fewer counters than last time, and no punch-out token this time around. So it seems like they're doing more cost-cutting, which is not really the best, but let's take a look at the deck itself. Maybe there'll be better stuff in the deck. Okay, let's see if we can find a little pull tab. I don't see a cutout for it, but I do see a seam. Okay. There we go. All right, so let's take a look at this deck. First off, we have Hearth Hull, the World Seed. One black, red, green. Also, this one looks to be slightly misprinted. Looks like they doubled up on the black layer. Or a 6/7 legendary artifact spacecraft with station. So tap another creature you can control, put charge counters equal to its power on the spacecraft. Station only as a sorcery. It's an artifact creature at 8+. Okay. So pretty standard station mechanic. Looks like at 2+, it gets 1 tap, sacrifice a land, draw 2 cards. You may play an additional land this turn. I like that. And then at 8+, it gets Flying, Vigilance, Haste. Whenever you sacrifice a land, each opponent loses 2 life. Okay. Yet another reason why Fast Bond is banned in Commander. Because a Fast Bond, a Zurin Orb, this, and a Crucible of Worlds just wins you the game pretty quickly. Yeah, because you go Fast Bond, Zurin Orb, drop 3 more lands, so 2 more lands potentially. If one of them's a soul land, play out your Crucible, effectively gain infinite mana, play your commander, and then win the game. Well, find a way to win the game at that point. Let's see. Cesarel, Genesis Shepherd, 2 black, red, green for a 2/5 legendary insect druid with flying. You may play lands from your graveyard. Hey, there we go. Whenever you sacrifice another non-token permanent during your turn, put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to Cesarel's power on up to 1 other target creature. Okay. Whenever you sacrifice another non-token permanent. So it does let you sacrifice the lands to do that. Excuse me. And it's not bounded, so that's kind of nice. There are a number of infinite sacrifice combos that we can throw into this that are colorless even. Eumidian Wastewaker. Okay, 2 black for a 4/4 insect cleric. Whenever this creature attacks, you and defending player each discard a card or sacrifice a permanent. You draw a card for each land card put into a graveyard this way. And then encore 6 black. So for 6 black, exile this card from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that attacks that opponent this turn if able. They gain haste, sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step, activate only as a sorcery. Well, that's pretty sweet. Huh. I could see this maybe seeing some play in Legacy. Not for the Encore ability, but for the top ability. Let's see. Avendo Brush Razor. 2 and a red for a 2/2 Insect Warrior. Whenever you sacrifice a non-token permanent, exile the top card of your library. During your turn, as long as you sacrificed a non-token permanent this turn, you may play cards exiled with this creature. And then tap, sacrifice a land, add red. Well, that's not a massive combo enabler. Yeah, this with Sazerael, like, there are several enablers here. I feel like there's probably several infinite combos in here. Or you could swap out a few things to create a whole bunch of them. Planetary Annihilation, 3 red, sorcery. Each player chooses 6 lands they control, then sacrifices the rest. Planetary Annihilation deals 6 damage to each creature. That's pretty cool. And it's 1 less than Wildfire, which is one of my favorite ways to do this. This is the first new mass land destruction we've seen in quite some time. So, I like it. And that also plays along really well with Avendo and Sazerael. Is it Sazerael? Sorel? Something like that. Baloth Prime. 3 and a green for a 10/10 or a creature beast. This creature enters tapped with 6 stun counters on it. Because that's not easy to remove. That's sarcasm, obviously. Stun counters are pretty easy to remove because they're both counters and there's a built-in way to remove them. If a permanent with a stun counter would become untapped, remove 1 from it instead. Whenever you sacrifice a land, create a tapped 4/4 green beast creature token and untap this creature. Or sacrifice a land, you gain 4 life. So this and Planetary Annihilation played together after ramping a bit is a pretty big combo. Exploration Brood Ship for green. It's an artifact spacecraft with station. At 3+, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. So it's an explorer that turns into a creature. And at 8+, it has flying, and once as flying becomes a 4/4, and once during each of your turns, you may cast a permanent spell from your graveyard by sacrificing a land in addition to paying its other costs. Very nice. I could see this thing play in lands as additional explorers, although I do think they are shaving explorers at this point. Horizon Explorer, 2 and a green for a 2/4 insect scout. Lands you control enter untapped. Whenever you attack a player, create a lander token. It's an artifact with 2 tap sacrifices token. Search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tap, then shuffle, and it is a 2/4. So, it's unfortunate that this isn't modern legal, because this would be basically an extra splunking that's on a body. So a splunking that you could tutor up with Summoner's Pact, but unfortunately it is not modern legal. Scouring Swarm. 1 black-green for a 1/1 insect with flying. Whenever you sacrifice a land, create a tapped token that's a copy of this creature. If 7 or more land cards are in your graveyard, otherwise create a 1/1 tapped 1/1 black insect creature token with flying. Okay, so if there are 7 or more lands in your graveyard, you create a tapped copy of this. If there are less than that, you create a 1/1. That is worded very poorly. Eumidian Hatchery. Let's see, land, tap, pay a life, add a black, put a hatchling counter on this land. When this land is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, for each hatchling counter on it, create a 1/1 black insect creature token with flying. Oh, this is the one that I've seen showing up in Smallpox and Legacy. Okay. This is a neat one, especially if you're going to sacrifice it anyway. Festering Thicket. I believe this is one of the new cycle lands. They finished the cycle of lands that are fetchable duels that enter tapped and cycle for 2. I believe this is one of them. But it's a swamp forest that enters tapped and cycles for 2. Vernal Fen. It's a swamp forest that enters tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. I believe this is also an additional one that they finished. Ooh, Fabled Passage. That is a cool looking one too. And this is currently standard legal, so that's nice. Tap, sacrifice this land, search your library for a basic and put it into play tapped, then shuffle. Then if you control 4 or more lands, untap that land. So it always enters tapped, and then if you have 4 or more lands, it untaps. Something many people don't notice. Braids Arisen Nightmare. This just rotated. 1 black for a 3/3 legendary creature Nightmare. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent of their choice that shares a card type with it. For each opponent who doesn't, that player loses 2 life and you draw a card. A good way to kind of have a bit of a standoff and give yourself some things to, or a source of persistent damage and draw. Or removal, either one. God Eternal Bontu. Oh, this was a fun one when it was in standard. 3 black for a 5/6 legendary creature zombie god with menace. When God Eternal Bontu enters, sacrifice any number of other permanents, then draw that many cards. When God Eternal Bontu dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into the owner's library 3rd from the top. Fun things with that, and it's a great draw engine. Blasphemous Act. 8 and a red sorcery. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. It deals 13 damage to each creature. So of course there's the classic combo of Stuffy Doll and Blasphemous Act, or Boros Reckoner and Blasphemous Act. They're fun, they're goofy, they're not the best, but it's a good removal spell for red. Hammer of Perforos. 1 red for a legendary enchantment artifact. Creatures you control have haste. 2 and a red tap, sacrifice a land. Create a 3/3 colorless golem enchantment artifact creature token. That token is a pain to find, so hopefully they have that printed in here. Morog, Fury of Akum. 4 red for a 6/6 legendary creature Minotaur Warrior. Each creature you control gets +1/+1 for each time it is attacked this turn. Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control. Keep in mind that it specifically checks for being in your main phase. So if it triggers during combat, say you have a creature that goes and gets you a land when it attacks, this will not trigger. Also, this does not add additional main phases. So if this triggers during your second main phase, you will go straight into, from the combat step after that main phase, into your end step. There will not be an additional main phase. So just be aware of that. Augur of Autumn, another one that just, well, it rotated last year. Feels like it was just yesterday because I haven't had much time to play standard lately. 1 green for a 2/3 human druid. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play land cards from the top of your library. And Coven, as long as you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you may cast creature spells from the top of your library. Lets you peek at the top and play stuff. Centaur Vinecrasher, 3 and a green for a 1/1 plant centaur with trample. When this creature enters with a number of +1/+1 counters On it equal to the number of land cards in all graveyards, and whenever a land card is put into a graveyard from anywhere, you may pay green green. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to your hand. So it's a nice sticky threat that you can bring, like, it brings itself back, which is useful. Not the best, but in long grindy games, it can be useful. Formless Genesis, 2 and a green for a Kindred sorcery shapeshifter. So Kindred is the new replacement term for tribal. They're the same when it comes to super types for things like Tarmogoyf. Just something to be aware of. And this says Changeling, so it's every creature type. So if you have something that reduced the cost of, like, dragon spells, for instance, it would affect this. Create X colorless shapeshift, or create an XX colorless shapeshifter creature token with Changeling and Death Touch, where X is the number of land cards in your graveyard, and then it has Retrace, which is pretty cool. Retrace is an older mechanic that I really enjoy. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a land in addition to paying its other costs. Now, I doubt the card is in here, but from what I've seen so far, Wrenn 6 would be a great addition to this deck. Planeswalkers usually aren't great, from what I understand, in Commander, but Wrenn 6 is pretty good with land synergies. Loamcrafter Fawn, 2 and a green for a 3/3 creature satyr druid. When this creature enters, you may discard one or more land cards. When you do, return up to that many target non-land permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, that's pretty cool. It's almost a regrowth. Multani, Yavamaya's Avatar. 2 green for a 0/0 legendary creature elemental avatar. With Reach and Trample, Multani gets +1/+1 for each land you control and each land in your graveyard. And then 1 and a green, return 2 lands you control to their owner's hand. Return this card from your graveyard to your hand. This guy gets out of hand in the late game and is really useful, both for returning lands to your hand so you can replay them, and for bringing itself back from the graveyard. So if you need to discard things multiple times. So if you have, like, hand size matters cards, this can be really useful for boosting that. Oracle of Moldiah, another additional land card. This used to be a pretty pricey card, but 3 and a green for a 2/2 elf shaman. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play land cards from the top of your library. Nice way to ramp if you have a little bit of ramp. Pest Infestation. Hey, Vintage Cube All-Star. XX green for a sorcery. Destroy up to X target artifacts and or enchantments. So keep in mind, it says up to X. You don't have to target X. You can target fewer than X. And then you create twice X, 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens. With when this token dies, you gain 1 life. So basically what this says is X and a green, create X number of 1/1 pest tokens. X must be even. You may then destroy up to X minus, or X divided by 2, not minus 2, artifacts and or enchantments. I know that's not how it reads. That's effectively what it is. A lot of people get confused on how this works. You can target 0 artifacts or enchantments and just create X 1/1, black and green pest creature tokens. Well, twice X, which since X is on here twice, you have to pay twice X anyway. So if you wanted to create 2 pest tokens, you would pay 2 and a green, and you'd be able to blow up 1 artifact or enchantment. If you paid, like 4 and a green, so 9 mana total, you'd create 8 pest tokens and be able to blow up 4 artifacts or enchantments. You'd be surprised how many judge calls I've had or pest infestation. It's really silly. Rampaging Baloths. 4 green for 6/6 beast with trample and landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, create a 4/4 green beast creature token. Nice way to make creatures. Splendid Reclamation. It's another fun one. 3 and a green sorcery. Return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Another thing to upgrade this deck with would be it's not Philology Archaeologist. It's the one that's played in Amulet Titan. I can't remember the name of him off the top of my head. He's 1 in a green, and then for 4 in a green, you can sacrifice him to return all lands from your graveyard to play. Tireless Tracker, 2 in a green for 3/2 Human Scout with landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, investigate. So create a clue token. It's an artifact with 2 sacrifices token, draw a card. And whenever you sacrifice a clue, keep in mind that doesn't say to draw a card, just whenever you sacrifice one, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So another thing you can add to this to upgrade it would be Academy Manufacturer, so that you get extra treasures and foods whenever you make a clue. So that would be pretty cool. Another all-star from Vintage Cube, Titania, Protector of Argoth. 3 green for a 5/3 legendary creature elemental. When she enters, return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and whenever a land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, create a 5/3 green elemental creature token. This goes really well with Zurin Orb, or any other unbounded land sacrifice outlet. Sylvan Safekeeper would be another great example. World Breaker, 6 and a green for a 5/7 Eldrazi with the Void, so it has no color. When you cast a spell, exile target artifact, enchantment, or land, so that is a cast trigger. It does not have to resolve for that to happen. Reach, and 2 and a colorless, sacrifice a land, return this card from your graveyard to your hand. So it's a threat that you can keep getting back. And it has built-in removal. Escape to the Wilds, another really fun one. 3 red-green for a sorcery. Exile the top 5 cards of your library. You may play cards exiled this way until the end of your next turn, and you may play an additional land this turn. Nice little ramp card that effectively draws you 5 cards. Gaze of Granite, X black green for sorcery. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value X or less. Fantastic board wipe if you have enough mana. The Gitrog Monster, 3 black-green for 6/6 legendary creature frog horror with Death Touch. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice the Gitrog Monster unless you sacrifice a land. You may play an additional land on each of your turns, and whenever 1 or more land cards is put into your graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. This goes infinite with a ton of different stuff. Skittering Scourge, I think it's one of the big ones. I think it's Skittering Scourge. It might be something else. It's one of the Scourge cards. But lots and lots of card advantage with the Gitrog Monster. Corvold, Fakehurst King. This can also be your commander for this deck, if you're in fact playing commander. Let's see if we can get this a little better. There we go. 2 black, red, green for 4/4 legendary creature Dragon Noble with flying, and whenever Corvold enters or attacks, sacrifice another permanent. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Corvold and draw a card. That's any permanent, including tokens. It doesn't say non-token permanent, and it's not restricted per turn. So if you are making a bunch of treasures, or a bunch of clues, or a bunch of food, or gold tokens, you know, anything that you sacrifice goes well with him. Mazarek, Crawl Death Priest. 3 black-green for a 2/2 legendary creature insect shaman with flying. Whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Holy cow. Okay. I feel like there's something where you can remove counters to make creatures. And then if you have a sack outlet to go with this, that could get really silly really fast. You'll probably want to put like an Ashnod's Altar or something along those lines in here, or a Zurin Orb if it's not in here. Just some kind of unbounded sacrifice outlet, either for lands or for creatures, because that's silly. Omnath, Locust of Rage, 3 red, green for a 5/5 legendary creature elemental, and Landfall. Whenever a landfall you control enters, create a 5/5 red and green elemental creature token. Whenever Omnath or another element you control dies, elemental you control dies, Omnath deals 3 damage to any target. Very nice. Soul of Windgrace. This was really fun in Standard 2. 1 black, green for a 5/4 legendary creature cat avatar. Whenever Soul of Windgrace enters or attacks, you may put a land card from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped under your control. For a green and discard a land, you gain 3 life. For 1 and a red, discard a land, you draw a card, which is an unusual one. And then 2 and a black, discard a land. Soul of Windgrace gains indestructible until end of turn. Tap it. So it protects itself, it gains you life, it does things with its own ability, like fun stuff. Windgrace's Judgment. Same Windgrace. 3 black-green for an instant. For any number of permanents, destroy target non-land permanent that player, or for any number of opponents, destroy target non-land permanent that player controls. A nice 3-for-1 at instant speed. World Soul's Rage, oddly enough, currently standard legal. X red-green sorcery, it deals X damage to any target, put up to X land cards from your hand and or graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. The hand or graveyard is the big one to me. Being able to bring back a whole bunch of lands from your graveyard, it's pretty solid. Canyon Slough. It is a mountain swamp, so it is tutorable. And enters tapped and cycles for 2. This is one of the original cycle. Cinderglade. It is a mountain forest that enters tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. Replusan Forest, one of the pain lands. It taps for a colorless, and then it taps for a red or a green and deals 1 damage to you. Just like all the others. Llanowar Waste, same but for black and green. Sheltered Thicket. It is one of the original cycle of cycling duels. It is a mountain forest that enters tapped and cycles for 2. Smoldering Marsh, a mountain swamp that enters tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. And Sulphurous Springs, it is the red-black pain land. Twilight Mire is the green-black filter land, so it taps for colorless, and then you can pay a green or a black to add either black-black, black-green, or green-green to your mana pool. It's a nice filtering option. Viridescent Bog converts 1 mana of any color into black-green. So 1, tap it, add black-green. It's a nice fixer. Farseek. 1 and a green sorcery. Search your library for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain card. Put it on the battlefield, tapped, and shuffled. Keep in mind this gets duels. It gets these. Springbloom Druid, 2 and a green for a 1/1 elf druid. When this creature enters, you may sacrifice a land. If you do, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. This is Harrow stapled onto a creature. So if you're playing Harrow, you should be playing this instead. Unless you want both. Binding of the Old Gods. 2 black-green for a 3-stage saga, or enchantment saga. Let's see. Step 1, destroy target non-land permanent an opponent controls. 2, search your library for a forest card, put on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Keep in mind that grabs duels. And 3, creatures you control gain death touch until end of turn. If you have a way of blinking this, once you get to the 2nd chapter, you can do some cool stuff with this, or removing counters from it for that matter. Because being able to do the first 2 chapters repeatedly is really nice. Arcane Signet, 2 mana artifact, taps for your commander's color identity. We all know what it does by now. Neat Starfleet style badge with this as well. Soul Ring. We all know what it does. It's a 1-mana artifact that taps for 2. Probably should be banned in Commander, but it's such an ubiquitous card in Commander at this point that it's pretty much here to stay. Command Tower. Another card that's absolutely ubiquitous. Tap, add 1 mana of any color to your color. Tap, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. The only time you shouldn't be playing this is in a monocolored deck. Mountain Valley. You're going to want to upgrade this to a Wooded Foothill immediately. But enters tapped, and then tap, sacrifice this land, search your library for a mountain or forest card, and put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. It does put it into play untapped, unless it says it comes into play tapped, but you still want to upgrade this to Wooded Foothills. Terramorphic Expanse, same as an Evolving Wilds. Tap, sacrifice this land, search your library for a basic, put it on the battlefield tap, then shuffle. Infernal Grasp, this just rotated. 1 in a black instant, destroy target creature, you lose 2 life. Solid card. If you want to upgrade it, Bitter Triumph is sort of an upgrade for this. Night's Whisper. 1 in a black sorcery. You draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. It's a really good draw card for black. Sprouting Goblin. 1 in a red for a 2/2, or yeah, 1 in a red for a 2/2 Goblin Druid with Kicker for a green. So you may pay an additional green as you cast a spell. When it enters, if it was kicked, search your library for a land with card with a basic land type, reveal it and put it in your hand, then shuffle. That grabs duels. It has to have a basic land type. It does not have to be a basic land. Red, tap, sacrifice a land, draw a card. Aftermath Analyst. That was the card I was trying to remember earlier. That is in Amulet Titan. So it's already in here. You don't have to worry about adding it. 1 in a green for a 1/3 Elf Detective. When this creature enters, mill 3 cards. So you put the top 3 cards from your library into your graveyard. And then 3 in a green, sacrifice it, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. There's a ton of really cool loops you can do with this. Take a look at basically any kind of Amulet Titan deck for those loops. Beast Within. 2 in a green, instant, destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token. One of the best direct pieces of removal that green has. Cultivate. 2 in a green sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards, put 1 on the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, then shuffle. Yep. Groundskeeper. For green, it's a 1/1 human druid that for 1 in a green, you can return target basic land card from your graveyard to your hand. Nice if you are sacrificing things repeatedly. There's some really cool infinite loops with him. Nature's Lore. 1 in a green sorcery. Search your library for a forest card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. So keep in mind this comes in untapped and it grabs duels. Harrow. Hey, I mentioned this one earlier with the other guy. 2 in a green, instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a land. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them on the battlefield, then shuffle. Only advantage this has is it is an instant versus a creature. Roiling Regrowth. 2 in a green, instant. Sacrifice a land, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. Oh, that is just a functional reprint of Harrow. I was not familiar with this card. Or at least I didn't remember it. Wait, that's from Zendikar Rising. Never mind. Satyr Wayfinder. 1 in a green for a 1/1 creature satyr. When this creature enters, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them into your hand, put the rest into your graveyard. Good way to get cards into your graveyard. Skyshroud Claim. 3 in a green, sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 forest cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle. I feel like this hadn't had a reprint in a very long time. The original version of this, I believe, is in Nemesis, and it had gotten kind of pricey. So nice to see that get a reprint. Terra Sunder. 1 in a green, instant. Kicker. 1 in a black. Exile target artifact or enchantment. If this spell was kicked, exile target non-land permanent instead. Jury, Master of the Review. Black-red for a 1/1 legendary creature human shaman. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Jury. Whenever Jury dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. This would be really funny to fling, because then you do damage twice. Mayhem Devil. Oh, yes. Very good with the sacrifice synergies that are in this. Definitely a good one. This makes me want to run Zurin Orb even more. 1 black-red for a 3/3 Devil. Whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, this creature deals 1 damage to any target. Also a fun thing, if you can cast Unexpected Fangs on this, it's really funny. Because it puts a, I believe it puts a Death Touch and Lifelink counter on it. Or it might be a +1/+1 counter and Lifelink counter. I know it gives it Lifelink permanently. Putrefy, 1 black-green instant, destroy target artifact or creature. It can't be regenerated. Clean, efficient removal. Rakdos Charm. So you know that opponent that just made an infinite number of creatures? You can still win. Black-red instant, choose 1, exile target player's graveyard. Destroy target artifact, or each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. There is nothing funnier than letting someone make infinite tokens and then casting this when they go to swing lethal. It's very funny. Urg, Spawn of Turg. Black-green for an X5 legendary creature frog beast. Urg's power is equal to the number of land cards in your graveyard. At the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 1. So look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard. And then black-green, sacrifice a land, gain 2 life. Probably are going to replace this card, let's be honest. Bajuka Bog. Pauper All-Star. Also, Legacy All-Star. This land enters tapped. When it enters, exile target player's graveyard. Tap for a black. Cabaretti Courtyard. Oh, this is a fun one because it tutors, gains you life, and sacrifices itself immediately. So this goes really well with Aftermath Analyst and Splendid Reclamation, and just basically ramps you each time you bring them back. But it's a land that when it enters, you sacrifice it. When you do, search your library for a basic mountain, forest, or plains card, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle and gain a life. Just fun. Dakmor Salvage. Tons of combo potential with that as well. Dakmor Salvage, it's a land that enters tapped, taps for a black, and has Dredge 2, so you can dredge it back to fill up your graveyard. There's a lot of combo potential built in here, especially with the Gitrog monster. So this, a discard outlet, and the Gitrog monster, you can mill your whole deck if you want. Just something to try out. Escape Tunnel. It's a land that you can tap and sacrifice it to search the library for a basic land card and put it on the battlefield tapped and shuffle. So it's already a better version of Terramorphic Expanse or Evolving Wilds. And then you can tap and sacrifice this land to have target creature with power 2 or less to be unblockable until end of turn. Target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. It's pretty cool. So keep in mind, the power only has to be 2 or less when this ability resolves. It can be increased later on. Evolving Wilds. Tap, sacrifice, search your library for a basic, put on a play tapped, then shuffle. Escape Tunnel is just an upgrade to it. But is what it is. Maestro's Theater. It's the same as Cabaretti Courtyard, except it hits Island, Swamp, Mountain. Again, tons of combo potential, especially since you have multiples of them. Funny enough, I would just be running all 5 of the lands that do this, because each one of them will hit at least one of the land types that you have in here. Myriad Landscape. Enters tapped, taps for colorless, and then 2, tap and sacrifice it, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, that share a land type and put them onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle. They have to share a land type. So you can get a snow-covered forest and a regular forest, but you can't get a forest and a mountain. Or you can get 2 forests. Riveter's Outlook, same as the other, but for swamp, mountain, forest. Again, lots of combo potential. Rocky Tar Pit, let's be honest, this should be a Bloodstained Mire. Enters tapped, tap, sacrifice it, search your library for a mountain or swamp, and put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. This really should be a Bloodstained Mire. It'll probably be one of your early grades. Oh, since there's a waste in here, Myriad Landscape cannot get waste because it does not have a basic land type. We have a waste. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 swamps. 1, 2, 3 mountains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 forests. Very nice. And we have some tokens. We have a 4/4 beast with a lander on the back, another beast, a pest on the back, a beast with an elemental on the back, 5/3 elemental, another beast, the 5/5 elemental on the back. So some nice ones there. A 1/1 flying insect with an elemental, 5/5 elemental on the back. A 1/1 flying insect with a 5/3 elemental on the back. 1/1 flying insect with a 3/3 beast on the back. The 1/1 flying insect with a 3/3 token enchantment artifact creature golem on the back. Again, those tokens are a pain to find. A copy token with a clue on the back. A copy token with a pest on the back. Then a turn order reminder and popular magics format. Very nice. Well, that was World Shaper from Edge of Eternities. Thank you for joining me on this adventure. As always, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff for the algorithm. It really helps us out, and I really appreciate it. And until next time, stay awesome. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks.